Carla, thank you very much. It's time, start time, and the floor is yours. Over to you, Carla.
Okay, thank you. Do you have the slides, Russ?
Of course.
Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to FGDLA's Government Learning and Technology Symposium Series. I'm Carla Lane, FGDLA's Vice President for the Higher Education Sector. I want to welcome you to be here today, and I'm your moderator. So this is going to be a 2-hour workshop. So, we understand if you need to put yourself on mute every once in a while or dim your video, feel free to do whatever is comfortable for you. So let me tell you a little bit about FGDLA. We're a nonprofit professional association formed to promote the development and the application of distance learning in the federal government. We actively foster collaboration and understanding among those who are using instructional media in support of education and training in the federal government. Our membership is derived primarily from individuals employed by the federal government. We invite you to join with us. We are a membership organization and we do not charge for membership. So you can join, look at our membership application form. It's at fgdla.us. For upcoming events, you want to go to the next slide, Russ? So these are the upcoming events. So Sandy Wagner from DLI will be putting together 2 workshops on artificial intelligence. So they will be on October 18th and November 15th. There will be 4 hours totally, and FGDLA will issue a certificate of completion if all 4 hours are completed. And then on December 6th, FGDLA will present the awards that honor excellence in training. The deadline for submissions was last Friday, September 15th, but Dr. Jolly Holden, who is the committee chair for everything about the awards, says that if you can submit something to him by Friday, he will be able to accept it. He has a couple of padding days in there. So feel free. You can reach him at Jolly Holden at bellsouth.net. And we are so proud that Zoom is a valued sponsor of FGDLA and has been instrumental in helping us present the webinars. We'd like to thank Zoom and Johan Zimmerman for being here with us today and for sponsoring today's webinar. Johan, would you like to say something about, we've had you guys as sponsors for such a long time, and it's so nice to have you here. Tell us what you think about being a sponsor for FGDLA.
Very honored to be here. Thank you for inviting us. And not to forget Dr. Lance Ford, who is also with us today and who will be answering some of your questions regarding our forays into online learning. I don't have a lot to say currently. I will do my quick presentation, but I do want to emphasize that Zoom is now far more than just meetings or webinars or online engagements, and that's part of the discussion we'd like to have today and talk a little bit more of where Zoom is thinking of going, especially now with the announcements of the AI companion that's being included with our offerings for all of you.
Thank you, Johan. And I'm not forgetting Lance. So the topic of the workshop today is very long, engagement strategies for learners and participants who are here, there, and everywhere. Our presenters are Dr. Lance Ford and Johan Zimmerman, who is Zoom's Global Education Director. Dr. Ford is the Education Advocate and Zoom Room Specialist, EDU. Lance and Johan, we want to welcome you as FGDLA's valued sponsor, and thank you for agreeing to present to the FGDLA members and friends today. The floor is yours.
Let me share my screen. This is an image of a place I always want to be reminded of, that I need to go back there. That's in the high country of the Yosemite Valley. And I went hiking there a few years ago, but that's not why I'm here today. Let's go.
But that is beautiful.
It is.
So my role at Zoom is in education. I'm responsible for both primary, secondary, and post-secondary education. We have started to look into corporate training, government training a little bit, but I can't say that we're focused on those areas specifically, but I think they are kind of comprehensive in the overall learning environment. That's all about how we distribute, how we communicate, how we do synchronous and asynchronous learning and teaching. And so I'm going to have just very brief slides explaining where we see ourselves going with education, what we're doing to enhance our tool sets and what areas we're focusing on. So it's all about empowering learning. Obviously, in government, that is no different. We are focused on 3 areas primarily, and that is around the online, blended, hybrid, and HyFlex learning environments that we have all come to acknowledge and know about, especially during the pandemic. We are talking a lot about hybrid and remote work and how that interfaces with our learning environments and how we accommodate people who are no longer necessarily working on site or in person in an administrative or faculty role. And then last but not least, we talk a lot about learner services in the case of higher education student services. And that is everything from admissions to recruitment to enrollment, health services, IT support, alumni, communications, etc., all supported, but what we consider our efforts around UCaaS, and UCaaS is a term not familiar to everyone, Unified Communications as a Service. That's how the analyst community looks at this, kind of a subcategory of what we've all come to know in communication within organizations, institutions, and the government. So we have spoken to a lot of schools, a lot of universities, and while many institutions have required their students to be back in person and on site, we still believe that hybrid is the future because there is academic continuity issues. We've seen it around schools in Hawaii, fires in Canada, in Greece, earthquakes, you name it. Is that in the name of academic continuity, all institutions have to be prepared to switch to online or hybrid environments at a moment's notice, and that's just on the primary and secondary education area. In higher education, we believe that it's the students who are driving the demand for flexible learning modalities. And those learning modalities can be, I want to be on campus, I want to be in the dormitory, but I don't want to get up at 7 to go to the lecture. I want to be able to log on online in a live session and join remotely. Or I'm an adult learner, I have to take care of my kids or my elderly parents, and I want to check out the asynchronous content on the weekend because that's the only time I find the energy and time to actually engage in learning. So it's the students' demand that's been driving the change in how content is delivered. I know your organization is focused entirely on the distance learning efforts in general, but I think it's important to acknowledge that there is no one size fits all. There are students who thrive in an online and distant environment and others who can't stand it. And we've seen that during the pandemic as well, especially when emergency remote education was not up to par for a lot of learners. And we're seeing some efforts around really educating our teachers and our faculty members to be better online educators. And that requires education of technology tools, quite importantly. And there was recently a report by, can't remember who actually published it, whether it was EDUCAUSE, but it's looking at, are teachers educated to teach with technology? And for the majority, that is still a big no, and a lot of people who are just not ready yet to teach online. But governments, corporate training centers, colleges and universities are all acknowledging the fact that things have changed, and they're now changing their interior rooms, their AV setups with microphones, speakers, cameras, to make this new normal more palatable for those who engage it. If I'm a teacher and I come into a room and I need to teach a class in the next 5 minutes, I don't have time to spend 15 minutes with the technology to get the class started. It has to be 1, 2, 3 buttons to engage the cameras, to turn on the microphones, to make sure there's no audio feedback, make sure the students who are in person in the class and those that are remote have all that same experience. So we see a ton of investments in hardware around displays, around microphones, webcams, you name it, in order to make this experience more palatable. These are some trends I'm going to show that are from EDUCAUSE that are not necessarily equally applicable to government, but I think they're relevant. EDUCAUSE is the largest IT association in North America with over 100,000 individual members and many, many institutions that are engaged. When they came out with the trends for this year, which I think gets published in October of the prior year, they really looked at the continued adoption and normalization of hybrid and remote work and continuation and normalization of hybrid and online learning as two of the main top trends in the list of top 10. There's obviously many, many other areas that are important to higher ed institutions, and they should equally be important to government users. A lot of it about data security and protection and all those other good things. But I think it's important to note that while we all agree that the pandemic is basically over, although I just had COVID a couple of weeks ago, but that's shall be beside the point. But you know, we do understand that this is now the way going forward. And it's not just because we all believe that that's the case. It's backed up by research. There was a technology report by EDUCAUSE about students' preference. And we would have thought that students would have loved to get back in person and assume that that would be the dominant request. And it turns out that over the course of 2020 to 2022, it's actually fewer people prefer that to be the main way of learning. So completely face-to-face went from 35 to 29% of students. And the reality is students want flexibility. They want choice. And whether that's in the government space, higher ed space, corporate training space, we may not be able to be in that class at that time, but we want to have that content accessible. And whether that's synchronous or asynchronous, or whether I actually have to show up and find a parking place and pay for my parking ticket and get through the badge security.
And put your shoes on.
Exactly. all of those things. Actually, finally find the pair of pants that you haven't worn in years. But anyway, but that's, I think this is so important to acknowledge that this is how it has changed. It's not whether people believe this is the case. There's a ton of research now available that indicates that that's where universities and training centers have to move to. The other thing that we notice is in the employment area. I don't have stats on government, but more and more employees are seeking new opportunities, not necessarily just for pay increases and salary upgrades, but the opportunity to work remotely. And that is incredibly important for a lot of individuals. Having experienced it myself for the last 3 years, I can't see myself going back into an office full-time every day, 5 days a week. You may have heard that Zoom has requested its employees to return to the office, which was somewhat of an interesting announcement since we're Zoom. The reality is that 65% of our employees do not live near an office and will remain 100% remote. Those of us who live near an office have to live close enough to make sense to be there. In my case, I'm over 50 miles away, and they realize that those 2 hours in traffic are no good for my productivity, and so they're allowing me to stay remote as well. But it's the fact that students or that employees are also, just as the students, are asking for this flexibility, and they're making choices with their feet, and they're saying, I'd rather work for that company that pays me less, but they're allowing me to work remote, than be forced to go through that traffic every day.
The cost of working at home really improve.
Well, and the companies are saving money by not having to pay for electricity and plumbing and upgrades.
Exactly. And it's a green footprint. It reduces our carbon footprint. So it's a win-win for everybody. Yay, Zoom.
We hope so. We hope so. It's been working fine for me, so I'm hoping I can continue to work that way. But the reason why Zoom decided to bring some people back to offices is really figuring out how to live the hybrid world. If we don't do it, how can we tell other companies how that's done? So we want to have at least a small number of individuals who are in offices on a regular basis, who need to figure out how to reserve a hotel desk in half a day. How do we feed them? How do we figure out how many people are there to make sure the canteen is not overloaded or understaffed? All of those decision-making pieces in a hybrid work world are just as relevant to Zoom, and we want to live that world. And so the decision from the CEO was really, let's try to bring some of our people back into offices. let's live that hybrid world and use that to inform our product development. So that was really important. The next couple of slides are a little bit about the expansion of what we've done at Zoom over the last few years. You all know us for Zoom Meeting, for the application you're experiencing right now. But we've gone far beyond that. We have done integrations with AV and Rooms. We've added Zoom Phone as a new application. We've added contact center capabilities. We are adding AI with the AI companion that was just announced. And we're really looking at all the pieces of the communication stack. That starts with, how do we communicate? Well, in the old days, it was email. Let's make sure email is included in the Zoom experience. So we now have email and calendaring directly embedded within the Zoom client. So you can activate email in your client and you don't have to switch and toggle to different apps. So that's one piece. The next piece is chatting. We do offer chat in the meeting experience, and you've seen it in the meeting right now. There's actually 3 messages already in there. That's how a lot of people understand what Zoom Chat is, but we have a single standalone chat application called Zoom Team Chat. Some of you may be using it, but it is similar to Slack. It's similar to Team Chat on the Microsoft side. It's similar to Discord. It is basically our way of saying it's not enough to just have a meeting. We need places where we can communicate after the meeting, before the meeting. We need to share documents. We need to share links to resources. And so you have an entire team chat application from Zoom that is included in your purchase with a Zoom meeting license. So that's another piece of that. Then the telephony was added about 2 years ago. We now have over 6.5 million seats of Zoom Phone. Ooh. People who are using cloud telephony and are no longer relying on desktop phones, and they've switched entirely to cloud telephony, which I can access either through my PC or through my mobile phone or through my tablet or any other computing device. But I have full-fledged calling capabilities, call forwarding, voicemail transcription, email to email inbox. All of the features that you would come to expect from a PBX system are now in the cloud and are tightly connected into the Zoom experience, so that I can make a phone call directly from my Zoom client on the mobile phone as well. So we want to support the entire communication stack for both the working individuals, the faculty members, the teachers, and the students. And that's why we frequently show this beautiful circle of products. Meetings used to be our primary bread and butter. It still is an important part of what we do, but we've gone far beyond that. So we are now focusing on events, large-scale, multi-day events, concurrent sessions that we can do online only or hybrid. We've improved on the meeting experience, and every week or month, there's new features inside the meeting experience itself. We've added a whiteboard application that you can use that is a standalone application where you can create whiteboards with your students, and you can keep that separately, and you can tie that to your learning management system, and you can go back to those whiteboards at an upcoming session.
Hey, Johan.
Yes.
When can I purchase a ticket for a seat on Zoom to go to Mars?
Not sure yet, but virtual trips are available just about anywhere. But we do have a partnership with the California Park System that will take you underwater in some of the California parks. So there's lots of options to take Zoom and take it for a ride.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how Zoom has expanded so much. It's just incredible, the entire portfolio of solutions that is visible here on this graph.
Other things that may or may not be as relevant to your team here is that we're increasing tools and features within physical buildings. So adding digital signage, emergency notification, integration with conference rooms. We've added a tool to create a remote workspace reservation. So if I know I need to go to the Zoom office in San Jose a week in advance, I can go in and say, I need a desk on the 3rd floor near the window, and I want to be next to Dr. Lance Ford, who's there that week. I can book that ahead of time. And on arrival, I badge in, I have to take a quick screenshot of a QR code. And now the phone is enabled in my name, my phone number, they have a monitor set up for me, mouse and keyboard, and it's literally takes 2 seconds, and I have a fully working workstation at the office, and we're using workspace reservation that's integrated in the Zoom experience to facilitate that. Yeah, any questions?
It's absolutely amazing what has happened. Years ago, I lived in San Francisco and I lived in East Bay, but I worked in the city. And so I spent 2 hours a day on the Bay Bridge. And I finally decided that, this was not the way I wanted to spend my life. And so I announced to West Ed that I would be found in East Bay if they wanted me. And they said they would fire me. And I said, okay, go ahead. But they didn't. And I said I would be at meetings if I had to, but it had to be at 10 o'clock or later. So everybody looked at me like I was crazy. It was 1991. And they decided that that was a really good idea because the Golden Gate was not any better than the Bay Bridge. Right. And they set up 5 different annexes to do exactly what you're talking about doing, but with, the technology of that time. So 30 years later, to see the adoption of all of these wonderful tools to enable us to work where we want to, when we want to, how we want to, and with whom we want to, is so amazing. It's just staggering. I mean, I've still got all the arrows in my back from those years of standing out in crowds saying that everything that had to do with face-to-face was a dinosaur. It just didn't know it was dead yet. And what you're showing is that, it's all come true. Thank you, Johan.
It seems like you were ahead of the times. I also was involved in web conferencing a little ahead of the times. I launched Adobe Connect in education in 2006 or 7. And we were very excited about the tool set, and educators were saying, why do we need video conferencing? We can meet in person. We don't understand. And then Steve Jobs said no flash on iPhones, and that ended up that conversation altogether. Anyway, but yes, I think we've come a long way. The tools have become affordable. The cost of having tens of thousands of people in a single meeting are minuscule at this point. And so I think it's amazing how technology has advanced, and we're taking advantage of it. Our CEO, Eric Yuan, was the head of engineering at Cisco WebEx, and he got very frustrated with WebEx not moving with the times and really creating a tool set that everybody could use easily. And so he created his own company, and people laughed at him at the time and said, you're going to compete with Cisco and Microsoft and Google? And he said, yes, I am. And he's successful. Developed new ideas, easy to use tools, which we see today that, and they just work. And that's been really the emphasis of all of the work that the Zoom team has done over the last few years. Just want to finish up a couple of other things. Virtual Agent is a new offering. We bought a company called Solvi. It's basically a chatbot application that you can deploy on your website. So if people have questions, rather than having them call you or send you an email, they can have some very quick answers by pulling the chatbot, and that's becoming a norm in most websites, whether that's retail, government, or education. We also have a contact center solution that allows you to set up contact centers with lots and lots of individuals who can answer questions. We see a lot of adoption in universities for especially IT support, for health services, for recruitment, enrollment. It just makes life a whole lot easier, and it's tied in with Zoom Phone. So again, on the basis of UCaaS or Unified Communication as a Service, we believe all of these pieces that are tying into communication are really important. I'm going to skip over Zoom IQ for Sales. That is an AI-driven tool specifically addressed to our sales audiences. We think there may be a future to develop an AI tool specifically for education, but I can't disclose any development there. That's still in the works, but we will announce it if we get there. And then lastly, question?
No, I said call me immediately when that happens.
Call you immediately. We will. Well, you'll get a personal demo.
Okay.
And then lastly, we don't want to stand alone in what we offer. We want partners to come work with us. So we have an app marketplace that now has, I think, over 300 apps in education alone. We have APIs and SDKs that others can use to build on top of our platform. One example is Michael Chasen, who some of you may know as the CEO of Blackboard. He sold Blackboard and then created a new company called Class or Class Technologies. He is also in the government space, so you might want to take a look at his offerings. But he built everything on top of Zoom. He's using the Zoom APIs and SDKs to deliver an even more exceptional educational experience, especially for those in the online and distance learning delivery space. So this is something, and I'll see if I can find the link to the website, definitely for your team to look at. And again, it is an example of how we're extending our platform by saying we can't be everything to everyone at all times. There's specific use cases in manufacturing, retail, financial services, you name it, and all of them want special features that in some cases are better served by us giving other companies the permission to develop on top of our platform, but leveraging the basis of the Zoom platform. And that's kind of the quick overview. I don't even have AI on here. AI is so new, and it was just launched this past week. It was made available as a trial version to some accounts. I don't know if you guys had access, but unfortunately, we did not make it available to education. And that was due to business associate agreements, or something that's known as BAAs with education institutions. It had to do with FERPA and COPA rules in K-12, primary and secondary education. So we're working through those approvals internally. We hope to make the AI companion available to all customers, including education and healthcare, by the middle of October. I don't have an exact date yet, and I can't make any promises, but we very much hope that is going to happen very shortly. And the AI tools are really an enhancement. I sometimes compare them to the e-bike that some of us utilize. It's an assistant, right? AI is helping me go forward. It helps me create the agendas for the meeting. I can respond to a chat message. I can instigate a new email. I can have a meeting summary, and Lance was kind enough to turn it on for this meeting. If that was actually capable, then you will have a summary of this meeting at the end of this meeting written by AI. A very useful tool, especially for those of us who are in frequent online meetings.
He's giving us sign language, Johan, indicating yes.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he does American Sign Language. I think his children are training him.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And by the way, talking about American Sign Language, we actually now have features that allow you to bring in sign language interpreter into your Zoom environment. In the future, my assumption is we're going to have AI-driven sign interpreters, and you don't even have to invite a person, but you have an automated system that signs for you in those cases. And I think that's uniquely important for the government space, where frequently all of the ADA requirements include that accessibility, and makes that really important. This is kind of the overview. I have a few more slides. We can go into more details. I talked a little bit about them. The whiteboard, I love that new addition of the more comprehensive features of whiteboard. It's similar to Miro, some of you may have used. And we're using AI to help you develop your whiteboards more quickly. So you could start a whiteboard by saying, make me a table with 15 sticker nodes and these subjects and these colors, and the AI will deliver that for you in the whiteboard experience. So ideation, iteration, collaboration is becoming a whole lot easier. We've added tons of surveys, polling, and breakout features. You could now, as a host, actually talk into all of the breakout rooms. That wasn't available just a year ago. So if you had 20 breakouts and you wanted to communicate to them, in the old days, text was the only way to communicate with them. Now you can actually speak, as we consider it, the voice of God. You can speak to all of the rooms as a moderator. We have added transcriptions and recording. Some of you have utilized that. But not only that, you can now also activate translations. So if I speak in English and I have a Spanish learner in the class that doesn't speak English as well, they can turn on Spanish closed captioning that are literally being translated in real time in the meeting. So very exciting features there. And then we're doing everything we can to continue to support hybrids and HyFlex teaching. From integration with our hardware partners, we work very closely with Poly, with Logitech, We work with D10, we work with NEAT. There's a bunch of companies that have really focused on how to optimize the in-room experience in a hybrid effort to communicate. Briefly talked about the workspace reservations. Those of you who are in physical spaces may sometimes run into the problem where you want a meeting room, but there isn't one, or you have invited people to be there and suddenly realized the meeting that you thought you had reserved is not reserved. So now we're integrating with meeting room reservation systems so that you can easily walk up to a room and say, oh, this room is available. I'll need that for the next 2 hours, or in advance, book that space through the Zoom experience and saying on Thursdays from 10 to 2, I need those that particular room on the 7th floor, and book that through the system. We also make it more easy for professors to schedule office hours. We recently launched a product called Zoom Scheduler that is a competitor to what some of you may use called Calendly. Calendly has been in use for quite some time. We've decided to just build it into the Zoom experience, so it's now become part of the client experience, where you can set up, or you can tie it to your calendar and then saying these are the days on Thursdays and Fridays that I'm available, and you can book a 15-minute or 30-minute session to talk to me. So lots of new additions to the overall platform. We're really interested in figuring out how our tools can be used in all facets of an institution, of an organization, of a government institution that is delivering distance learning, and all of the other pieces that are connected to that, right? It's not just the interaction in the academic setting, but it is all of the administrative work that has to happen prior to that. And this is my last slide, just to look back on some of the product innovation, not including what we've done on the AI side. We've added Contact Center in February of last year, IQ for Sales, which hopefully eventually will also look at the education market more closely, Whiteboard introduction, Team Chat, applications that you can add, mail-in calendar now fully integrated, Smart Recordings, which is kind of a precursor to the AI companion, which will take your recording and put it into chapters and make it easier to go through. And then the virtual agent just this last January. So lots and lots of newbies and new introductions in this field. And we think that Zoom is well positioned to continue its leadership in this space. Our friends at Microsoft and Cisco have many, many other products to be concerned with, and whether that's Minecraft or whether that's Xbox or whether that's Cisco's access points and switches on the back end.
Routers, switchers. Wow.
Exactly. We do nothing other than unified communications. This is our bread and butter. We have focused on this area of communications. We think we're best in breed. We think you can trust us. We're doing everything we can to ensure the security of the experience in all of the different levels, whether that's your phone or your meeting or your webinar experience. And we become more and more extendable, like I said, with the APIs and SDK tools. And with that, I will be open for Q&A.
I think, I'm an instructional designer, and I think some of the other people on the line today are as well. I think it's really interesting, all the things that you bring to us that we can pull together when we know about those things, and we can build them into the courses that we're creating so that we can begin to use Zoom and we can help people communicate and get together easily. I mean, to be able to, if I want to hold a meeting with my students, I'm already using Zoom, but the thing I have to get over with Capella is that they do not want us to record anything where we have a student in the room with us. And that becomes a real problem. And I don't know what to do about it. And there's really nothing that you can do about it. But I think secure communications would be something to really talk about, particularly where we're dealing with FERPA, and that seems to be the big problem. And the legal experts at Capella and Walden and other places are really concerned about it. The other thing I want you to do is get rid of SharePoint. Could you kill them off, please? That's my one request.
We're not involved with our friends at other companies.
I know, but invent one.
But
Invent it.
we're extending our capabilities greatly. And Zoomtopia is coming up. I did advertise for it today. That's
Yes.
coming up in 2 weeks. So there will be lots and lots of new announcements that you will be excited about. And I'm sure you appreciate what you see and where we're going.
And
Hey,
with the
you,
with AI,
Johan,
which chatbot are you using? I'm
oh,
sorry,
I'm sorry.
Russ, just
I'm sorry, Carla.
go ahead.
I was just trying to pick up on your desire to keep the privacy of a student available. And I'm wondering to Johan and to Lance, would focus mode help her with that?
I think that the question is in the recording, if it has images of the students, that legality of then recording that and sharing that out again may be a problem. Focus mode is really for an in live experience where the professor can see all the students, but the students can't see each other. And we developed that based on requests from especially the K-12 market during the pandemic, where students were embarrassed because they were logging in from bathrooms and from back alleys or whatnot, and didn't want to share their socioeconomic background necessarily in a Zoom meeting. And so they were asking Zoom, could you please make it so that the students don't see each other, make fun of each other, or that kind of stuff. We do have a way to eliminate the video components if you move to webinar. And in our new iteration of what we call Zoom One for Education, we will actually make webinar available under certain plans to all users at your institution. And webinar gives you the ability to have a session that doesn't open the individual student videos. So you would be in a webinar experience, only the hosts are visible, none of the attendees are visible. And that may be something, and it depends on the discussions with your publishers and your other vendors, is at what point is something legally allowable, or at what point do the lawyers feel like, oh yes, if we have an acceptable use policy and we have individuals who've signed off either themselves or through their parents, that yes, we can record these sessions, yes, we can share these sessions either internally only or even publicly if necessary in some cases. But a lot of that has to be addressed through acceptable use policies rather than through technology, because you can choose what you want, right? Do you want videos? You could tell all your students to turn videos off because you don't want that to show up in the recording. However, that may make the educational experience really, subpar. So you do want the videos, and if you do want the videos, then the question is, can we share them? What's the legality around sharing it? And voice and text. I think all of that is user content, and some of you may have heard Zoom talk about our large language model being trained, and the biggest fear was, oh my God, you're using our content to train your large language model? That's not going to happen. And so Eric Yuan, our CEO, stepped forward and he was very vocal about it and said, we will never use any user content for any training of our AI models. So I think that's a first in the market of somebody literally stepping up and saying, we're not going to do this. I'm assuming every time I use ChatGPT, they're using my content, my requests, my writing that's constantly being used for improvement of the system. That's how it's built, and that's what they're telling me. But if I'm in a Zoom meeting, in a Teams meeting, in a Cisco meeting, I'm talking about personal information. I have intellectual property to discuss. I don't want that to be used elsewhere, and so it's important that you as clients and customers make sure that the tools you use, that you talk to those vendors about what is your policy, how are you using content, how is it being leveraged, and which of it is yours versus which of it is mine. If you click on the print icon in Photoshop, the people at Adobe know that you did that because that is part of delivering the service to you. And if something goes wrong in the printing process, then that gives them the ability to try to fix that. But you don't want Adobe to have any of your drawings that you're developing within Photoshop. You don't want that to be used. So it's the service content that, yes, that will be used to improve systems, but it's not the actual content of audio, text, video that will ever be used.
What AI system are you using?
We have different models. We take a federated AI approach. We are using ChatGPT. We have our own language learning model. We bought a company out of Germany called Kites at the Karlsruhe IT university, and that's been used to develop our own model. And then we also have what we call a bring your own AI, large language model, where you can tie it into your own systems. So we're trying to be as open as possible. ChatGPT, I believe, Lance, correct me if I'm wrong, is still the biggest ones, but we work with Llama and the others
That's
as
correct.
we fit.
That's correct. And Johan, that might even transition us into the question that Stephen asked. And I know it won't be the whole holistic answer, but the question basically is, what necessitated Zoom for Gov, and how is it different from just regular Zoom? And I think as we kind of lean in on that, the necessity of certain regulations at a government level have directed us in that direction. Is that it? Can you elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, I haven't been involved in the government side. I do know that the government has certain requirements of data location, so we can't necessarily have a government entity be in a Zoom meeting where the content is stored outside the country. Canada makes it very clear that if you deliver any kind of video conferencing solution, that needs to be resident in the nation of Canada, otherwise they don't do business with you. And I think our government has very, very strict regulations around tools like Zoom. Zoom was heavily in use in the White House until the White House decided they wanted to save some money or change some of the rules, and I think they're back to Cisco. But you need to be able to adhere to all of these government regulations, otherwise they can't use your tools. And so we had to create a separate Zoom for government option. I think it has to deal with who they can purchase for, under what contract vehicles. So we work with Carahsoft very closely in the delivery of our Zoom for government solutions. And sometimes, because now that is a separate offering, some of the feature sets are different as to what's being offered in the commercial side and what's offered in the government. And we have to go through all sorts of governmental regulation approvals first before we can offer a new feature into the government. Does that explain?
Yeah, I think so, Stephen. If you got a follow up, just go ahead and put it in the chat there too. I guess I want to toot Johan's horn, because Johan has been working diligently and he just kind of glossed over this. But this thing that we released on Monday for education is a huge deal. And thanks, Stephen. And I cannot understate how hard he had to work internally and externally to get this across the line. We now have a Zoom One multiple tier offering in education. And Johan has given you a litany of different opportunities around that wheel that Zoom encompasses. Many of those he has been able to incorporate directly into this one price per user offering that gives you basically, at some levels, unlimited access to recording. And Carla, one of the things I would suggest maybe as we explore Zoom clips, we'll talk about that in the next part of our session, for your privacy issues and you creating content and disseminating and that sort of stuff. But unlimited recording options, whiteboards he talked about. But guys, these whiteboards don't just live during the meeting. They live before the meeting, the after the meeting, and people start asking, well, how much storage do I have? Johan has been able to come up with a plan at some levels that include unlimited storage for recordings, which includes transcription and your meetings translated at no additional cost to you. Again, he has done a whole lot of work to make this happen. And so I want to strongly encourage you to at least explore, for those of you who have Zoom contracts in any way, shape, or form, what he's been able to get done with the pricing to give you Zoom all you can drink kind of moments. So kudos to Johan. Just want to shout a huge shout out there. Yeah.
I didn't mean for this to become a sales pitch here, Lance. I'm sorry that you think so highly of me for creating
it. I'm telling you guys, this is something that will impact educators.
Yes, it will
tremendously, because we're no longer talking about a point product for a one-off solution. We're talking about a cultural change of an institution, right? And mentally, to be able to attack that with, hey, here's how we can change your culture, versus here's a way to have distant remote meetings. Those are two completely different conversations, right? And Johan's work on this to diligently get it to where it is, I just Thank
Yeah,
you.
I mean, we're always trying to figure out like what is unique about education and what do institutions need in order to deliver their content and, fulfill their mission and their goals and objectives. And the arrival of Zoom One didn't start in education. We launched that sometime last year, and it's like so many other software vendors, it's a bundle of products to make it easier to give more people more access to more features and capabilities. And so we have a buy as you need model, and we have a site license model, which most of our higher ed institutions all buy under what's called a site license, where everybody gets everything, and you don't have to ask whether Carla needs the webinar on Friday and Russ needs it on Monday, and I need to switch that. And if we just make it available to everyone, and so that's we hope that addresses a lot of the issues that have come up in the past, where companies or institutions are buying on a as needed kind of a la carte basis. I need 2 of these and 7 of those and 15 of these, and then I have to keep track of it. And that we're taking that nuisance away by simply saying, let's lower the price. Let's make sure everyone is covered, which increases the price to some degree, but make sure that everyone has access to the tools that they need when they need it. And it goes back to what Microsoft did years ago. You couldn't buy Word separately or PowerPoint, right? That was in the early days. Those were separate products, and then they became a suite, and so you couldn't buy them individually. And that's what everyone else is doing. And Zoom is trying to figure out, well, what is that optimal set of tools that teachers, faculty, and students need. And so we're excited with that launch. But that wasn't what this meeting was about. So
I know. I'm sorry. I
let's
just
not talk about products here.
Well, I'm about to jump into HyFlex and hybrid learning, and we're going to talk in light of the tool suite that you presented, how that works in these environments. And because of that product that has been released this week, we now have the ability to say to people, just use it, right? Just use it. So that's really what I'm excited about. For those of you I've not met before, I'm Lance, Dr. Ford, hey you, whatever. I'm a teacher. So I've been doing it for 30 years of my life. It does not even.
Yeah, and you're just now 35 years old, correct?
Yeah, I've got underwear that are older than some of the
Ooh.
teachers here. So in fact, I had a group.
Censor.
I'm sorry. I had a group of folks from Aver Media on campus today, and part of their experience was going around different classrooms and looking at the different things that our teachers are doing and how their products might fold into some of that. And one of the classrooms we left, and the teacher there called me Mr. Ford. We walked out and they said, "Why do you call you Mr. Ford?" I said, "Because I had him in class." Right. So anyway, for me, I love teaching. I love working with faculty members. I love getting to do what I get to do. And it is my privilege to be here with you guys today. Do we need to take a quick bio break before I just dive in? Because I know the brain cannot input more than the seat can endure. You guys tell me if you want me to just hit it. I'm just going to hit it.
Go ahead, Lance.
Okay. All right. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm a music teacher. My PhD is in educational administration, curriculum, and supervision from the University of Oklahoma. But what I really hope to do today is make a conversation out of this and not just a presentation. Now, having said that, I'm not nearly as organized as Johan is. So I've had to create a slide deck just to keep myself under one roof. But I will say this, I'd have nothing more important to say than to answer your questions. So if you ask me no questions, this is going to be the biggest endurance contest you've ever faced. I wanted to share this slide with you, and Johan used it in his, and I want to bring it to you for a very different reason. As you look at this image, you think Zoom, you think distance, you think remote. And I don't think marketing ever even thought about this, but those two people are physically in the same space. In fact, they're shoulder to shoulder. Why Zoom when people are shoulder to shoulder working together in a room? Why would you do that? Because Zoom is a rich media hub for individualization and differentiation. And it's not just a remote meetings tool. Now, that is my hypothesis that we're going to kind of tear apart as we go through our time together today. But I wanted to bring that to you as we talk about your HyFlex hybrid experiences, whether they be meetings, whether they be teachings, whether they be trainings, courses, what formal or informal, there are some things we need to talk about. Now, I'm not going to read this litany of things to you, but these are the things we're about to talk about. And you see that as we go through this, I'm focusing on the people who are here and not the tool. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't bring the tool into the equation. We will definitely do that. But as we go through it, I'm going to try to bring it to life in light of some things. And then I'm going to have some QR codes. I'm going to have some links for you in chat. Listen, if you only get with me through the first section and you click a link or scan a QR code, you end up over in La La Land somewhere, and you've basically minimized me, I'm down with that. This is your time. I want to be respectful of that. And to that end, let me tell you who I am. That's my beautiful bride of 30 plus years. And the reason I bring her into this equation is because she's a teacher. She teaches here on this campus. In fact, right now, next door, she has probably 5 or 6 students that she's working with in this building. I'm also a father, though, and those are my 2 kids at the bottom. On the left end is my daughter, Julianne. She's 24 years old plus. And she's a high school English teacher in Oklahoma City. She works at a Success Academy, and she does all AP stuff, freshmen and seniors in English. My son is next to that. He is a high school mathematics teacher, algebra and geometry. He works over in Arkansas. So we are a family of teachers. It's who we are. It's what we do. And I've been doing it for about 30 years. My title at Zoom is Zoom Room Educator. That doesn't matter if you don't get this. Okay? In this environment, the more I talk, the less you listen. It's TV. Students come into this environment with their laptop, they come in with their phone, they come in with their iPad, and if all I do is want, we're done. Okay? So I'm going to try to do less of this, more of this, and more of this hands-on with you guys as we go here. Okay? So here's our first section. Let's dive in. We've got to really examine how we interact and how we engage with our learner. And when I say learner, I intentionally did not say learners, and here's why. Each individual person has to be able to contribute to this in real time or near real time. When we talk about empowering individual voice in mass, one of the first things we should think about is chat. And in your new version of Zoom meetings, there is now Q&A. Carl brought up earlier this idea of being able to record stuff, and Johan kind of took it not just for recording the video, but he also expanded that conversation to say, you know, the digital interactions, this kind of back and forth. Many times that can be captured and put into these recordings. But if we do the Q&A instead of chat, then that becomes a little more formalized. We may need to have other people responsible besides ourselves as the lead teacher in this environment for answering Q&A. But we can kind of hide that from the playback experience because it is a separate experience in Q&A than just the raw experience of chat. Now, as a host in the meeting, you have some interesting options in chat. One of the things that I constantly am hearing from people is, we love chat, Lance, but people can kind of get cray-cray with the chat if we don't control it. So let me show you a quick hint on controlling chat. I'm going to fire off a new meeting here. God, seeing me once is bad. Seeing me twice is horrific. But there we go. I'm now in a Zoom meeting, I'm going to go into chat right here.
Just stop it.
I know it's too much. It is way too much. I'm going to go into chat now. In this meeting that you're looking at here, okay, I'm the host. Obviously, there's nobody else in this meeting besides me right this second. But I'm going to click these 3 little dots that I'm talking about in this presentation. Check this out. You may want to provide during the experience no chat. Right now is the sit down, zip it, open your ears, listen to me kind of moment. There may be moments where you want them to chat only with you and the other people who are leading the meeting. There may be a moment that you want them to be able to chat for everyone to be able to see it, okay, but not be able to pull somebody off to the side and have a sidebar. That's what this guy is right here. Now, for some of your trainings, some of your facilitated experiences, it may be very appropriate to allow them to do sidebar conversations, but that's not all the time. And you have the power as the leader, teacher, facilitator, Zoom calls it host, okay, to determine that in real time and modify it on the fly inside your meeting. So don't just feel like you're locked into one thing with Zoom. You don't have to be a pro, but figure out how to effectively facilitate this experience. Awesome. At 56, I just bought a guitar license. Congratulations, Stephen. I'm just now seeing your chat. I will tell you this: my daughter is a classically trained guitarist, and she's phenomenal at it. So get started now and just get with it. My old fat arthritic fingers, after driving the tractor for too many years, no longer will do anything like that. But anyway, I'm glad you're getting started with your guitar. I do have a Mark 7 saxophone as a side note. Other feedback, other questions about keeping an individual and allowing them to chat, but controlling that chat. Any thoughts on that, Russ? Carla, how do you guys?
I'm with you. I'm with you. You know, sometimes, Lance, I was just thinking the ... can mean so much, and we see it in different places. I'm looking at my in-meeting controls right now, and I can do at least 10 different things as a host of a meeting, and it can be overwhelming. But if I just familiarize myself with what it can do for me, I start feeling like I've got captain's bars on my shoulder instead of being a lieutenant.
Absolutely. It's there to empower you. And I think, Russ, you said it really well. We're not trying to intimidate people by giving them too many options. But some of you guys have lived in Zoom a long time, and you're like, what else? Okay, other than just sit behind a computer and wah on it, what else can I do? So I would say this: if you will find yourself regularly in Zoom meetings, and now I'm on my knees, okay, please go to zoom.us/download and download the client. Those of you who are living the dream of the web experience, the PWA, it's okay. It'll get you by. But there are so many more things that you can do with the full client. And it's free. It's free. Okay. So no sales pitch there. All right, here we go. Why not?
Well, in training, Lance, I'm sorry. As a customer success manager at Zoom, we were encouraged daily to train customers to use the web portal, the desktop client, and the mobile app. Those three items is how you talk to Zoom and how you gain those capabilities within Zoom. So a basic user can do this, and honestly, it's so easy.
No, you're bang on. And I will say this from the perspective of annotation, just the visual of saying something like, hey guys, this is going to be on the test. Having that moment in class or in instruction pulls people's eyes. I don't have to tell you what this says. You can read it. The only way that I get your attention is to visually draw you in. And at 5'9", 250 pounds, 52, 54 years old, I'm not all that in a bag of chips to look at. I got it. All right. But I can get you to engage with me visually by doing things like this. Hey, that is going to be on the test. Now, what I just did was I went up to my pen tool and chose Vanishing Pen. The second I released the pen tool, it went away. It started disappearing, kind of deal. So giving, yeah, it is. It's magic. It's like a magic eraser kind of process for everybody. Now, right now, if anybody would like to play along, you can click out in my slide area, and you have the ability to request annotation. I would, if you want to do it, now's the time to do it. I'd love to have you join me in this process as we're going through it. But if you don't want to, that's fine too. I'd love to have you annotate right along with me. Anybody? Bueller? Bueller.
I don't think it's working. I can't ask for annotation.
Can you got, maybe it's disabled on this client. Russ, do you know if we've got the ability to, and I know you're hosting today, I don't mean to throw you under the
Yeah,
bus.
I think so, yes.
All right, let me
Okay.
see if I got participants there that I can give you the rights to. I don't have the right to assign that. It may be because I'm not a host or co-host. That's fine. Okay, I'm not trying to grind us to a halt here.
But what you're saying is the host has the ability to provide or take away the rights for attendees to also draw on the slide. And this is outside of any whiteboard experience.
That's correct. Not only on the slide and draw, but like in our business class here, Johan, we're teaching Excel. You mentioned the Microsoft Suite. We're teaching Excel. Our faculty member can bring up an Excel document and then give people the ability to modify a formula. Call them out by name. Johnny, you've got you're driving the con, Mr. Sulu, for those of you who are Star Trek fans. You're driving the con, Mr. Sulu. Now's the time for you to change the formula inside that cell. So we can not only just annotate, but we can pass actual control
And which I
other.
just did to you, Lance. I just gave you host control of this classroom session that we're having today.
Awesome. Let's see if I can do this now. Let me stop my share for a split sec. Let's go back and share it one more time. Boom, boom, boom. And let's bring up annotate. See if I can get this to work. I just don't have it. It may be something in the client,
Could be.
in the.
It may be on the back end, needs to be enabled on the administrative portal.
It may. But I guess what I'm saying here, guys, is this and this, both of those things are very powerful ways to engage those learners. And the more you can visually say, and the more you can visually do, and less you can auditorily say, the better off you're going to be. Okay. That's what we're trying to accomplish here with our tools.
You should be able to open up a whiteboard and we can all participate. Right?
We will. We're going to get there here in just a second.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And
Don't want to take too much ahead of time.
No. I'm just trying not to overwhelm people with all the bells and whistles here, because there are a whole lot of things to help drive engagement. Remember, we're trying to get everybody's voice involved and heard without allowing everybody to speak at once, because that just becomes a cacophony. Okay. Reactions done via voting or polling are another way that we can have feedback. Now, you guys are very familiar with traditional polling inside Zoom, I know, but I want to show you something that's the fresh and new from Zoom. We're going to do this real quickly. Get this out of the way for a sec. And I'm going to go into my Zoom client area here on the web. So here's my personal profile. Everybody has one. If you've got a Zoom account, whether it's free or not, you've got a place, a URL that you can log in. Maybe zoom.us, you log in. Down the left-hand side, you have some very interesting things. Mine is still tucked under meetings for now, but I'll show you where it resides in the new version. There's a thing you call.
Quick question to hold on you. Your shared screen is very fuzzy. I'm not sure what's causing it.
Yep. So let me share it to you in a different way. Let me do this. Let me do this. And this is going to look really weird for a split sec, y'all, because you're going to see me and me. And again, me once is bad enough. Me twice is horrific. So let's do that. And let's go back over here to Chrome. All right. So is this a little clearer, Johan, as I'm doing this?
Yes, this looks much better. Oh, perfect.
Okay. All right. So you have inside your Zoom login an area for your polls and quizzes. Now, traditionally, they have lived underneath your meeting. So right now you can minimize me, go to zoom.us, log in as yourself, go to your meetings tab. You should have a polls and quizzes right here. Okay. Under polls and quizzes, and it's now moved, is what it's telling me to here. Under polls and quizzes, you can create feedback opportunities for your participants. What do those feedback opportunities look like? Single choice, multiple choice, matching, rank order, short answer, long answer, fill in the blank, rating scales. And yes, you can add images to those questions. And for those of you who are teaching a class, you can actually mark questions as correct or incorrect and make it into a quiz.
Hmm.
Now, we're going to talk about some teaching tools here in just a second. I'm just going to kind of tease this for a moment. We have the ability now to make those quizzes that are auto-graded go into my grade book in Canvas. Hold that thought. Hold that thought.
Is it Canvas only, or is it all LTI 1.3 supported LMS?
Great question. Today, the export directly to the gradebook is a Canvas only as a part of it. You will still have all the results, and you can manually put those into any gradebook you want, and it can't automatically create an assignment. But to get the grades in today, that is a Canvas. I call it 1.3 plus, because there are some things that, because we have a really tight relationship with Canvas, that we're forging ahead on, but it's coming to other platforms as well. Great.
Carla, what are the most common LMS systems in government training and learning?
Moodle, Blackboard.
It's same as higher ed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does
Awesome.
it export a what is it, CVS file? If you
Yes,
don't have
the
Canvas?
CSV. Yes, ma'am. The CSV file can be dropped directly in there.
Okay.
You
So
got
it's
it.
gonna work. Okay.
Now, again, we're making it a quiz, but I want to show you something that Zoom just released. And Johan, you have to help me. I think it's GA. I'm not sure it's GA yet. Okay. But at least in mine, we have a new thing here that just was released a couple of weeks ago called Survey. Now, polls and quizzes get delivered live during the experience. We're in a live Zoom meeting. I'm going to take a quick poll, you'll take a quick quiz, get that information. But how do we get individual feedback other than a chat kind of thing, like you had mentioned earlier? How do we get that between meetings? How do we aggregate results and let people vote on different things? Will we send out a survey? Yes. Inside Zoom now, you have the ability to actually create surveys, get that survey feedback, open it up for a specific window of time. You are presented with a link that you share out to people that they can actually take the survey. So for those of you who used to use or still use things like SurveyMonkey and those sorts of third-party tools, all of that is now baked into your Zoom experience.
Is this sophisticated as like Qualtrics?
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
Is this as sophisticated as Qualtrics? So for example, research, if I want to do something for my dissertation, can I use this? So if I'm getting ready to interview somebody, I can say, here's the demographic, fill out this and answer these couple of questions, and then I could do the interview.
Absolutely. As long, I'm just thinking about, I can put any fields in there. I can have them rank order things. It's basically the same types of questions that we saw in poll area. The challenge from a Qualtrics perspective is if you're tying those results back to a tool that's doing your analysis of that. I don't think we have that export yet of this data. You'll have the data at your Zoom site, but I don't have a way to automate that into some third-party analysis tool. Yeah.
How does it give it to you then?
Yeah, I think it's just launched, and I would say we're at the level of SurveyMonkey when they started.
Yes.
So to get to the Qualtrics level is going to take some time, but I think we have every intention to keep developing this, see if people like what we've done, see what kind of features need to be added. I think and Google surveys had the same problem. As they're great tools for quick surveys. You want to get some quick answers. Am I going to do my doctorate dissertation on it? Probably not.
Not yet.
But you can still collect simple
You
information.
can do all of the simple stuff.
What is my job title? You know,
Exactly.
what do I think about this, that, or the other? I mean, something quick, but
And you can anonymize it or have it attached to the email address that you sent the survey to. So there's a bunch of options in that area.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it's really exciting where Zoom's going, and that's I know that Johan was like, Lance, don't make this a sales thing, but that is really why I wanted to capitalize on Zoom One, because now you kind of hopefully are beginning to see it's a cultural shift from the disparate tools that we've all tried to use in the past to do 15 tools for 15 tasks to, hey, can I do that in Zoom?
Okay, you keep using the word culture, and I keep wanting to substitute the word instructional design. You were doing instructional strategies. I mean, most of us here are instructional designers of some ilk. And so culture, you know, when you're talking to people like us, it's just an easier fit for us. With culture, I go culture wars, white supremacy, you know, and I don't want to go there.
No, I totally got what you're saying. I guess from a Zoom perspective, the reason I've chosen, Carla, to use the word culture is not, there's not any negative connotation in my mind. It is really the way that the tool becomes ubiquitous to our operations. It's no longer the tool is the topic of communication. It's the frictionless conduit for communication. Synchronously, asynchronously, on demand, however we need it, audio, video, transcribed, translated, individualized. That if people can get their mind at an institutional level around instructional design in the way they engage between departments, our whole institutional mindset will level up, because those are the effective strategies to truly get individual voice. And to make a democracy survive, which is, I'm hoping we're going to be able to pull that off, in order to make a democracy survive, we have got to hear from the individual.
Right.
And no one is more important than anyone else. And so when we look at instructional design strategies, I'm hoping beyond all hope that all the amazing work that people like you all are doing is surfacing inside the institutions day in, day out, not just the course offerings. Does that make sense?
So let me give you another one. With distance learning, the beauty of distance learning has always been that we're able to take it, and instead of doing the dump, you know, open brain, pour in stuff, we're able to do things where we help people become independent and self-directed learners. Thank you. Me too. Exactly. And that's, again, it's an instructional design decision where you're not doing pedagogy, but you're doing andragogy. And those are things.
That's correct. And from Johan's surveys and results that he brought earlier in his presentation, we can go so far as to say that is the new demand. It's no longer optional, right? It's the expectation. And if you can't meet the expectation, they will find a different organization to work with. They can, from a student perspective.
Right.
Right. And you heard Johan say from a worker perspective too. I think more and more, gotta be careful here. I know, Russ, I'm always just like right on the edge. I think more and more you're going to see faculty members setting that as their expectation for the way they engage with learners. And they're going to, just like you did, Carla, in 1991, they're going to say, listen, I'm not physically coming to that class Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to get in front of people and just go womp, womp, womp. I got a lot of other ways I can womp, womp, womp. Okay. If I'm going to show up somewhere, I'm going to expect them to do, produce, and for them to show up. So let's level the playing field. If a student is demanding it, I think you're going to see faculty members in the not too distant future say, this is my expectation as well.
Well, as faculty members, I think, you know, I taught at UCLA for 15 years. I was in the distance education department. I was actually in the building 3 times. I went to more parties in Santa Monica with my boss than I did go into the building to work.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't have to get on the 5. Hello.
That's what it's all about, is providing those high flex hybrid options, not just because the learners demand it, but like you said, because the faculty members are demanding.
I thought they added the WeWork spaces at the gas stations on the 5, so you could always pop in. And...
Just gotta pop in and do your work there.
That's the 405.
Oh, that's the 405. Sorry, that was wrong.
Okay, I love it. The only 5 we have here is 5 miles betwixt here and there. That's what I hear a lot. So anyway, sorry. I'm going to go through a couple of quick ways.
Hey, Lance.
Yes,
Lance, our executive director has a meeting like Johan that he has to jump to pretty soon. It's a faculty meeting, but he has what appears to be a quick question that he would like to ask before we let any more time slip away from him. It's Jolly Holden's question, and it's in chat
Yes.
right now.
Jolly, why don't you
Yes.
come off mute and ask?
Come on.
Well, you can read it there.
I see it. I see it.
Okay.
Jolly, that was so helpful.
Well, I've got over, I don't know, about 4,000 live chats over the past 20 years and come seeing about 400 graduate courses.
Yes.
And I've used video conferencing tools, starting with Macromedia, Breeze, and then Connect and Cisco and others. But one thing I had when I was using Connect had this feature where my PowerPoint used in a live chat that provided the ability for each individual attendee to navigate that PowerPoint on their own, independent of what I had or independent of any other users. What this did was allowed each individual to ask questions based on what they knew at the time.
Yes.
And of course, there's a heterogeneous audience because everybody had a different set of questions. But that really increased interactivity and cognitive engagement. I was more of a conductor than an instructor.
And so the way that we would do that in Zoom today, Jolly, is not only PowerPoint, I guess is what I would say. It's a very powerful tool. I've just enabled a Zoom whiteboard. We're just going to jump on it. Okay. Down the left-hand side, I would have, prior to my class, down the left-hand side, about 3/4 of the way, you'll see a thing that says upload PDFs and images. It's the icon that has an arrow and a small line. I would have grabbed my content, PDF, image file, working towards PowerPoint doc files. I would have put it here and it would have laid it out. Just boom, 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 boom. Also across the top is a way to create slide areas. And so I don't know if you see the very top, it looks like there's 3 icons. It looks like a screen, a timer, and a pen tool. Okay. That screen allows me to take the content that has been aligned as a slide, and I could drive it, or they could go to where they want. And I appreciate everybody drawing. Jolly, the other thing I have the ability to do here, because this board is infinite in scope, if you're concerned that you're drawing on top of someone else, you can zoom out in the bottom area, and you will see there is no east, there is no west, there is no north, there is no south. If you can find yourself a corner somewhere and do that, do your annotation, do your drawing. If you'd like to see where you are in respect to everyone else, next to the 20% or whatever percentage you got it zoomed out, there's a mini map. So you as an individual user now can navigate this entire canvas. Then
Lance, may I add, and I think it doesn't quite answer Jolly's question. And I worked at Macromedia before I joined Adobe, so I know Macromedia Breeze and Adobe. And yes, they had a special feature where people could actually look at the file ahead of time or while you're presenting. So I think there's 2 features that Zoom has created that make things a little bit easier. One is the worst one when I first joined Zoom was attendees couldn't advance the slide, meaning anybody who was speaking other than the host would have to say, hey, host, could you please advance my slide to the next slide? Just the worst experience I've ever had. Luckily, we fixed that. You now can enable others to advance slides. So that's number one. And then the easiest way to share a document that is not being shared on screen is a link in the chat group that said, here's the link to the Google Doc. Please review this ahead of class or while we're having the session. And if you have any questions, let me know. But, you know, all of the web conferencing providers have slightly unique approaches. One thing I always loved about Connect was that you had a persistent room that anybody could enter at any time, and you could leave content in that room for people to access, almost like a website. And Zoom is now finally getting there where we can attach, first of all, we can attach resources to our meetings that people can download, PDFs, PowerPoints. And second of all, we're launching a new product called Zoom Huddles, which is not quite there yet. But that will be actually the equivalent of a persistent Adobe Connect room where people can jump in and out. The room always persists, always in the same location, always the same URL, and people come in and out. And I can have a lunch conversation, say, hey, meet me in that huddle room, and we'll just discuss a brief situation. So lots and lots of ways to interact, to communicate with content, to share content, to collaborate, iterate, all of those things. And again, every application is slightly different in its approach of how that's done. Does that answer the question, Jolly?
Would that allow the learner, each learner in the chat, to independently navigate at their own pace?
If you wanted to share PowerPoint or a Google slide, all you would do is put that link in the chat and saying, here's the content. And then that person could independently on their own look through it, even if there's 200 people and they all independently look at that document.
So if I was using a PowerPoint, like say Dr. Ford is using, and in that PowerPoint, I had a list of questions. I teach instructional design courses at the graduate level, and the same questions come up all the time. Some students know it, the answer, others don't. So I listed all the questions. I said, pick your question based on your cognitive level, and I'll answer it. And it allowed them to control that PowerPoint, click on that link to the question and the answer. So the rest of the class were going all over the place, which is fine. They had different levels of expertise. So instead of me going through each question one by a time and losing learners as they're going, I already know that, keep going, next. They determined what they wanted to view and see. And then I answered their question.
So are you sharing your screen at all in that situation?
Yes, it's basically Connect had the ability to share that screen. I designed that PowerPoint for hyperlinks.
Oh, I do remember you could either sync it with the viewer or not sync it. And if it wasn't synced, then every individual could click through the slides independently.
That's right. You had a PowerPoint and you just put in.
So we currently do not have that particular feature. I can't share my screen and share my PowerPoint. I could allow you to advance back and forth, but when you do, it's synced, which means you advance it for everyone else. I can't give you the ability to advance without me, unless, Lance, I'm incorrect.
No, unless you put it, that's where I was going. Unless you put that PowerPoint in this area, this whiteboard, then technically everyone in here can go anywhere you want at any time. And
when you say put the PowerPoint in the whiteboard, is it an attached file or is it slides?
It can either be as a file, it can be as individual slides.
Here's the secret. Adobe Connect, when they uploaded the PowerPoint, it was
it converted it to the server file.
The Flash.
In the early days, it was a Flash file. Yes.
Yeah, it was a Flash file. Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah. And that's what enabled that ability for people to flip through.
Adobe says they've simulated that using HTML, but I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen it either. And I can tell you, since I worked there, that Adobe Connect is no longer in use at Adobe. Adobe does not use its own web conferencing tool. That's number one. And the development has been moved to India. I doubt that you're going to see a whole lot of development on that front, and I hope I'm not disclosing any secrets here.
Yeah, my candidates really like that feature.
and like I said, John,
it empowers
when I drag a PowerPoint into here, I can either say keep it compressed as one file, or I can say I want it opened up into all its files. It creates all of those slides on this whiteboard. I can go into presentation mode as a teacher and present straight through it. That does not preclude any individual user from going over to slide 6 and commenting on it, or slide 7, or slide 8, or whatever. They can jump ahead, they can go behind. But to Carla's point, I can turn on the collar feature, which is not invite all of you all to follow me, but require all of you to follow me. Okay. Now, as I navigate this space and start to move around inside the whiteboard, you are all with me. If I zoom in on something to get finer detail, you are all with me. Now, if you dive out of the experience, you can dive out. Like you said, Jolly. Well, I don't want to follow you right now, Dr. Ford. I want to go over to slide 5. Okay, great. That's totally up to you. But I have the ability to put all of that content here and either do it as guided practice, individual practice, and they have the opportunity to, if you give it to them, fully edit any of the content, and or to the question about Word docs. In that Word docs question, Erica, I'm going to put a link right here in it because I can now embed direct hyperlinks inside the whiteboard, and we're going to open that thing up. We're just going to edit like mad on it. Okay. And if I don't want them editing stuff, then I can give them the ability to comment on it. I also have a complete list. If you hover over any of these objects, like the dual arrows, right this second, the purple dual arrows, you hover over that and choose it, you can see who has actually modified it. You can see a history of who modified it, what time they modified it, what modifications they made to it. So I'm actually able to track students' participation through this experience. Now, this will blow your mind. This is a static link, this whiteboard. It's an active link. Long after the meeting is over tonight, if you get a wild hair that, oh man, I should have commented XYZ on this particular portion, you can open it back up as a student. And if I've got it unlocked, you can comment on it. If I've got it unlocked for you to edit, you can edit it tonight at midnight. I still have a record of you editing it tonight at midnight. Okay. All of that is built into this whiteboard, and it's included in your Zoom One license. So this idea that, well, now we're going to buy something else from Zoom. Now we're going to go buy a whiteboard. No. It's a part of the experience.
Hey, Lance, a quick
Yes.
question, really quick. Dawn is liking your automatic camera tracking. How
Yeah.
are you doing that?
Great question. It's a feature of Zoom Room called Presenter Track. And when I come into a Zoom room, and I don't know that we'll have time for it today, but Dawn, I would love to get with you at some other time if we don't have time today. When I come into Zoom Room, I can invoke up to 3 cameras in multiple modes. They will populate multiple gallery images. One can be a static image with a preset. One can be moving the camera based on someone raising their hand and speaking. And the third could be this mode, where I am just walking around doing my thing. But that is all a feature of Zoom. Go
Super
ahead,
cool.
Ellen.
Super cool.
Oh, well, thank you. I talk with my hands and I talk with my feet, and I know I'm nothing to look at, but all the stuff behind me is really cool. So that's why I get up and get around.
So Lance, it's motion sensing. Is that what the camera is doing?
Great question, Carla. It's actually identifying the human frame, not who the human is. It's facial detection, not recognition. For all of you who are panicked that Zoom knows who you are based on your facial profile. No. Okay, no. It's actually found me. And now as I move around, it's keeping this human frame to the best of its ability in the center of the image.
Yeah, I said to Dawn, years ago, there used to be the collar. We put on a dog collar. And so the camera followed the collar. And so now
Parker
the technology has improved so much
tracking
that
ring.
what?
Parker Vision tracking ring.
Yeah, there was that out of Oklahoma, Stillwater.
Well,
Yep.
so I love this because I teach instructors how to have engaging online recording and discussions. And so I would so love to have more information about this because it's pretty awesome.
If there are 2 of you in the room, Lance, what happens?
Great question. It depends on the model of camera you go with, but you do have the ability to become the person that's followed, or release that for someone else to become the person that's followed. And literally these are the hand signs, right? In some of the cameras are set so that when some secondary person comes in, it will widen and grab both folks. Because it's not an infinite field of view, right? It's a finite. This particular one's about 120, 140 degree field of view that I need to be in. And then it widens out to grab that other person and does its thing from there. So it kind of depends on what mode you go into, Carla. Great question.
Can you use it? I mean, for example, with the Zoom meeting we're in now, it picks up on whoever is speaking and switches to that. Would that work in a room?
There is a way to do that. In fact, Zoom, I know one of the questions that Russ asked me to address is Zoom with AI. So one of the AI features of Zoom, specifically to rooms, is called multi-stream. That's a camera finding a single camera finding multiple people in a room and dividing the gallery image into multiple gallery images from that one camera with the people's faces. So taking the people who are sitting around different areas, different tables, and making them gallery images. There's another AI feature called.
So could I comment on that? And so
Yes.
basically what that, Carla, what that does, and everyone in this meeting, what that does is it's like an old conference room of the past where 10 or 15 people would go into the conference room and it was hard to tell who was talking. It was hard for honest to goodness interaction, Dawn, like you mentioned. So the feature that Lance just mentioned is it gives everyone in that room, those 10 people, complete equality. Everyone is the same size screen, and it looks it looks like this meeting here instead of a large conference room. It looks like we're in a meeting just like we are now. I love using that. I love seeing that because of that equality that it gives people, employees, or students.
That's it, Russ. So the next iteration of Smart Gallery from a Zoom perspective, utilizing artificial intelligence, is this. It's called Intelligent Director. And if you look at that image, whoops, sorry about that. If you look at that image real quick, you see there are 3 cameras on that front wall. There's 2 monitors. There's a camera up in the left corner. There's a camera in the right corner. There's one at eye height. The gentleman who is sitting on the right side is behind the lady in the denim jacket. Okay. So consequently, even though we might have multi-stream turned on, that camera's not going to see that guy behind the woman in the denim jacket because their line of sight between the camera and him is blocked. But the camera in the upper left-hand corner will see him. So that camera in the upper left-hand corner says, I got a better shot than you got. Let me take my shot and put him in a gallery image specific to that. So all 3 of these cameras are working in conjunction via Zoom software and Zoom AI to determine the best view of an individual in a room and put them into the gallery image accordingly. Now, right now, I can't get into my room next door because my wife's teaching a class, but if that's something you'd like to see in real time, I am more than happy to get with you individually or as a group and show it to you because it's very impressive to watch the camera algorithms start to determine, well, that shot's a little blurry, or that person's partially blocked, or that person, and switch automatically.
Lance, I'm so sorry. I have to speak to Erica here for a moment because Erica has a great leadership position within the United States Marine Corps University, and she has a lot of rooms where people are in. And I had the same job when I was, the video conferencing teletraining officer for the Navy. And think about it, those years past that Carla was referring to is how we got to where we are today. I stood in the front of a room with a very expensive 3-chip camera on a tripod, and it wasn't automatic. I had to move it, and I had to miss someone, and it was never accurate, and I was always a distraction for the students. But look at that slide that Lance just put up with the 3 cameras that are very affordable, are active with high definition and a single chip of electronics, which is driving that automated operations. It's unreal.
Erica, you got your video on. Talk to us. Come on, Erica. I see you down there.
Yeah, I was just saying that would be pretty incredible. Having them all synced in like that. I also like the idea that being able to stream out, not just have, where it could go to a platform, external. I would like you can talk to that piece. That I think is very valuable, especially if you have like a huge audience that you want to reach that maybe doesn't have to be involved, but maybe they want to observe. Like we have a means for that within our organization, definitely.
So Erica, there's a lot of really cool things that we can do in Zoom like that. I don't want to go too far down a couple rabbit holes, but I'm going to jump in them and I'm going to jump back out. Okay. Number one, today's Zoom meeting, whether I'm on a Zoom room or just in a meeting like this, there's an option under more for the host that allows you to stream live to a platform. Now, there are some named platforms there, like Twitch, like Facebook, some of those that, like YouTube, some of those that, from a FGDLA perspective, people might be a little averse to. But there's also one called RTSP, which lets you define the server that will actually reflect that stream, can be internally housed on the network and reflect only internally to folks on that local area network. 100% we can do that. Okay. That's one rabbit hole. Backing up.
Mhm.
Gonna dive into another rabbit hole. There's a tool that was on that wheel that Johan mentioned earlier called Zoom Events. Okay. And Zoom Events takes either multi-day, multi-session things or a single session experience and does exactly what you suggested. Puts a wrapper around it, turns it into basically a webcast that people can watch as if they are watching television. Okay. So that's Zoom Events. Specifically, the one event thing is called Zoom Sessions. Selfish plug, that's included in Zoom One. All right. Then there's another way we can do this. So right now, this is a Zoom room. You see signage happening here. This is a Zoom room. This is signage happening. Those Zoom rooms can go into digital signage mode and join a live Zoom call as receive only audio video participants. So think about the televisions that are in the hallways. Think about the televisions that are in the conference rooms. At noon today, all those televisions that have been playing all this kind of information for signage suddenly kick over into joining the live address from XYZ, joining the live training from XYZ. Again, the people in that room cannot be seen or heard. It's meant to be a broadcast style environment, but those devices are automatically added. Now, again, I know this is not a sales pitch, but I got to say, because I'm a Zoom Rooms guy, that one, if you had one Zoom room on your license, you could have 249,999 screens. If your meeting would hold all those, come into that meeting at one time at no additional cost. That's what Zoom is trying to do. They're trying to provide two-way interaction, broadcast interaction, asynchronous interaction, all of those things as a, sorry, I'm going to use again, culture changing agent.
And I got to say this too, and this is not a sales thing, but it's good for people to understand this. The cost of one Zoom room that Lance is referring to is practically nothing, Erica. It is so minuscule for one license. We could add it, Carla, to our federal government DLA platform with the snap of a finger, and it's almost nothing. So the cost versus the capability is incredible.
It's, I mean, what AI is doing in Zoom is revolutionizing this whole platform again. Now, thank you. I've got 20 minutes, and I got way too much information. But like I told you up front, I got nothing more to say than to answer your questions as far as priority in my mind. So I'm going to dive back in, and I'm going to hurriedly, I think AI has kind of become a topic here, so I'm going to fast forward, kind of like I did with that presentation a minute ago. I'm going to fast forward to a little conversation around AI, because I know that is really a hot button for people right now. And Russ, you asked, could I bring some AI information and how is AI being leveraged inside the Zoom platform across the board? Today, right this instant, I asked Russ, I know it looked weird to you guys when Russ was opening the slide, the first slide, there was a pop-up on his slide. I'm sorry about that, Russ. It was me.
It's okay. I saw you.
Okay. I asked Russ if he would start a process called the AI summary. Now, right this second, while I'm talking to you, upper left-hand corner, way up in the corner of the screen, there's a green check mark. You see that? See that green check mark? You can roll your mouse up there. There's a little green check mark. That lets you know that this thing is absolutely encrypted end-to-end for all participants. If you move your mouse just a little bit to the right of there, you see sort of a glowing diamond that's kind of pulsating. Hover your mouse over that. Okay. Right now, AI is in this meeting, thanks to Russ bringing it in. And what it's going to do, it's going to chapter and index this entire 2 hours and give you paragraph summaries on each of those chapters that it has indexed based on topic. That summary will be presented to Russ as an email. Russ can then forward that. It's going to be in his Zoom account. He can send that out to you guys.
I'll sell it to you. I'll sell it to Carla.
Sold.
I'm laughing because Russ, I have no idea what instance of Zoom we're on, but I'm about to throw myself under the bus.
It's the one I just updated it this morning, Lance.
Okay, so and I don't know whose Zoom is this. The FGDLA's instance of Zoom? Okay,
it is.
Russ, would you mind telling them how much you had to pay to have this feature enabled? Okay, so I don't know if you can see Russ down there, but he's giving you the double goose eggs. Zoom is so passionate about this, and you don't have to have it, okay? And it's no longer in trial only version. And Zoom is not taking the verbiage from this conversation to train its AI in any way. It is spitting it back securely to you, right? This is what Zoom is doing with AI Companion right now in this meeting. And if you're using this tenant and you have a host license, you can invoke this for any meeting that you have, and it will not charge you. I strongly encourage you to give it a shot. If you're a member of the FGDLA and you have a host license on this Zoom account, please give it a whirl. Now,
when was this made available?
It was made available a week before last.
Week before last. Oh man. Wow.
Now, this next one is not, it says released, it's not quite GA released yet. Imagine, and I think maybe this applies maybe to Erica. I don't remember who all was here right when we got started, honestly. But imagine coming 5 to 10 minutes late to a meeting, opening up the AI Companion, and having a button at the bottom that says, catch me up. And there, was my name mentioned? Were there action items for me? What topics were discussed during the time that I missed the meeting for the first 5 minutes? The AI Companion will be able to, in the not too distant future, give you those kinds of summaries. You're 5 minutes late to the meeting, hit the catch me up button. It's going to give you what has already been said, and then you can drill into it further. All right.
That's amazing.
So,
I see that very handy for a synchronous virtual class student coming in late. Definitely. Definitely.
Erica, it happens all the time, right? You're bang on. It happens all. Life happens. Okay. I think it was LJ or somebody who said about 5 minutes in, hey, I got to step away.
LB.
You ever seen that in the chat? Yep. I got to step away for a few minutes. Provided you have this option, you can come right back and say, all right, what did I miss in those 5 minutes? What has happened since this thing started? So next, this was released in July as part of I know. This was released in July as a part of Whiteboard. So that was AI in meetings. This is AI in Whiteboard. The ability for it to convert into basic shapes. I don't know about your drawing capabilities. Mine stink. So when I manually try to freeform a circle, it typically turns out a lot worse than that. And when I draw a square, it may not even be quite this bad, but it will automatically snap that into the shape that's closest to it, right? I'm going to demo this one for you. It's not released yet, and we're going to do this on the DL here in just a second. The ability inside Whiteboard to type in a prompt, have it create sticky notes with the responses of your prompt that you dialed in, that you asked. All right. I can't even describe it. You gotta see this. Let me do this. Okay. And let me go here. And I'm going to send you guys that link here in just a minute. Go here real quick. Let's go back, and go into my whiteboards. All right. Now you don't have this feature yet, so I can't bring it live into the meeting, but I'm going to create a new whiteboard. And by the way, all of these are live, so I can go back into any of those when I had to brainstorm around it and add content to that in real time. Here are the 200 plus templates that are here. Ever used a starbursting brainstorm? Want to try to recreate that from scratch? Absolutely not. Swim lane diagrams? rapid fire questions. All of these are templates that are here. So I'm going to go over here to the left-hand side. I'm going to hit more tools, and I'm going to hit Zoom IQ, right? Under Zoom IQ, I'm going to say, what are 5 things about FGDLA? Now, I have no idea. I did not test this. I did not pre-do it. And I want you to shoot that to me as sticky notes.
So is that AI at work?
It is AI at work in real time.
Make it
Then I
bigger. Can't read
drag
it.
it. Okay, let me get it over here to the side. Make it, I have to vote it up. Okay, thank you. Zoom, okay, boom. All right, so let's do this. Oh, where's my little Zoom? There it is down there. Come here. Drag it down just a tad.
Good, thank you.
You betcha. So it has gone out on the web. It's done a little bit of homework. And I don't know if you saw it or not, but there was a refine button. There was an expand button. I said, give me 5. So that's why it gave me 5 sticky notes. I can go and make it 10. I can make it into flowcharts. I can make it into diagrams. All this is for brainstorming activities and feedback and getting started with projects. It's all built in. It's right over here to the side. I know you don't have it yet. You hit Zoom IQ, you give it a prompt, and you can get it in any format that you want.
That's crazy.
It is absolute. And like I said, I didn't pre-train this, Carla. I just literally typed in the prompt on the fly. That is how Zoom is leveraging AI in whiteboards. So we've looked at meetings. We've looked at whiteboards. Let's look at composition. And some of you are probably familiar with this kind of thing, right? These can be messages inside Zoom team chat. That's included in your Zoom license. That's the asynchronous chat. In fact, I don't think it's turned on today, but there's a feature that all of the chat that's live in the meeting can create a chat channel. All the files that are shared, all the links that are shared, to Johan's point, the recording of the meeting, it automatically goes into that chat channel, fully transcribed as a part of it. But composition with AI Companion in chat, and soon to be, if you didn't already know this, let's stop sharing here. Let's do this. Let me spotlight myself for a split sec. If you did not already know this, you can use Zoom as your email client. So right here, you have all your emails. This one is actually tied to my Gmail account. You have all your calendars. That's tied to my Gmail account as well. All my whiteboards from prior meetings and classes, they're all here. And here's my Zoom team chat. Now, it all is meant to live in one place. So you're not, Zoom calls it click tags. And when I say click tags, let me explain it. Opening this application, closing this application, opening that tab, closing that tab, opening this browser, closing that browser. That's what Zoom calls click tags. Zoom is trying to reduce the click tags to engage in multiple channels of communication by putting it, and yes, even my phone, my SMSs, my voicemails, all right here in one place. Okay. So when we start thinking about AI in Zoom, AI composition for things, let's go in back. Love this. Let's talk about one other thing here. We mentioned it a moment ago, but this is that smart gallery feature where it's finding the people in the room, framing them individually, and can either put them in one gallery image or multiple gallery images, and then using the best view of the room to create the best image in those galleries is Intelligent Director. Multiple cameras talking to each other with AI to determine which one has the best shot of the class. Now, I hit you like a whirlwind, and I know, and I'm sorry, and that I teach like my hair's on fire. That's the only way I know how to teach. Questions for me, because I know I've got 9 minutes and I don't want to push us right to the edge and just with information. Oh, barbecue is going to be on campus today. I don't want to push us right to the edge with information, but I do have a couple other things I could share with you unless you've got some questions for me.
Share.
All right. I'm going to go into my LMS. Mine happens to be Canvas. I know we got Moodle. I know we got Blackboard. I will clearly define for you when I say this is a Canvas only kind of thing. All right. The rest of these things are a part of our what's called LTI 1.3. We've talked about a whole lot of tools. Okay. And I don't want to get wrapped around that axle. Individualization, differentiation. We went a whole different way with my presentation than I wanted to go. Small group, effective group work. You guys are instructional designers. I don't have to make that jump for you. You know how these things can work together. But where can it all live that I could find it at one place and one time? That, my friends, is my learning management system. Mine happens to be Canvas. D2L, Sakai, Moodle, Blackboard, Schoology, yes. As long as LTI 1.3 compatible, the lion's share of the features I'm about to show you will work here. Okay. I have a module. That module is my Zoom module. I've affectionately called it Zoom with Dr. Ford. I can schedule my courses for the fall, or I can have the bursar's office or the registrar's office on 25 or 25 Live, whatever it's called, do it. But just to give you maximum flexibility, I'll do this. This section and group aware thing today is specific to Canvas. It is section and group aware. So if I wanted to say this meeting is only for the group called Thinking Differently, I can make it that. That's pulled that section and that group straight from Canvas. I have the ability to assign a physical location that I will be in when I get ready to teach this class. I have the ability to define the security here in the LMS. I can pre-assign breakouts. Can't quite do this in Blackboard yet, but it's getting there. I can import course groups and make in Canvas and make them my breakout rooms. That's already done. So all the people who are in those small groups, they are already now pre-assigned to a breakout. I can record it automatically. I know there was some conversation from Carla already about the security behind that. Johan mentioned the possibility of focus mode, or Russ did. I can enable that to start off with, and then I can kick it. Now at this juncture, I'm going to be on the road 2 weeks in October. I will physically not be here on campus to teach my classes. So I will log into my learning management system and I will start it from right here. However, on the times that I am at my classroom, I will literally do what I'm about to do. I will physically walk into the room. When I get to the room, content is going to be playing. I'm going to walk up to the room. Music appreciation just got scheduled in here. What do you know? Okay, I think I'll start it. Now, I don't know if you saw it or not before I clicked it, but it said it would auto start in 6 minutes. So if you have faculty members who are totally technophobic and do not want to hit start, it will auto start. This is the recording splash screen that says, hey, you're being recorded. Now, this is the camera view from this camera up here. And you may be asking yourself right now, why is my gut on the screen? Because I have what's called a companion Zoom room that I can put on my desk up front. And as a part of that companion Zoom room, I can create a whiteboard. And I can teach my class. That camera can be pointed at my students. And I can give some notes on the whiteboard at my desk, or walk up in front of the class and give those notes if I want to. Okay. I'll take this down and I can just go here. And we will
say that if you're traveling, you've got this, everything can be going on in your room, but you've got this additional accessory. Okay.
Because remember, auto join means the students are in the room. There's no faculty member in there. It auto joins. I kick up whiteboard from my laptop. Now whiteboard is kicked up at the front of the room. They're able to come up and annotate. I can annotate. I have a secondary screen that's companion with this at no additional cost. It gives me a second camera, gives me a second writing surface. Heck, I can even, I know you remember this, but we did the polls and quizzes a little bit ago. I said, go out to your account, open up polls, quizzes, and surveys. I can administer those quizzes right here. I don't have to get a laptop out. I don't have an iPad out. I don't have to open up some separate. It's in Zoom. It's a part of the culture of my class. That's where that goes. So I offer it. I end it. I can share results to it. I've recorded it. I'm going to go ahead and end the class real quick. And go back over to the LMS. Let's do this. Let's go share screen. Boom, 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 boom. The whiteboard that I created during the class. I'm going to whiteboard inside my learning management system. The whiteboard I created is right here.
Amazing.
I want all my class to be able to access it. I want them to be able to comment on it. So now when they log into class, they will see this and they will have rights to annotate and or comment. If I want to offer some office hours, I can do it right here. You remember Johan talking about Scheduler? This is the stripped down free version of Zoom Scheduler built into your learning management system. Those cloud recordings from class, they're all here. I can enable those for people to be able to go back and see them. Now, I'm not going to click on recording analytics, but suffice to say, because it has FERPA information, I can see student names. I can see how much of it they watched. I can see when they watched it. I can see if they downloaded. So if I'm giving participation grades based on that information, there it is. I have the ability to, it's just crazy, y'all. I'm not going to click the report here because once again, it has student names, but I can get who joined, how long they were there. And if I want to, I can set that up as an attendance report right back into my grade book.
Can you tie it to a survey and ask them do a quiz?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Now that quiz going into my assignments area automatically, that is a Canvas specific thing right now. So these are polls that I administered. Again, I'm not going to click on it because it's going to give you student names, but what the student's name is, what they scored, all of that is in the grade book right now as an assignment. And then last but not least, because it is part of this Zoom one thing that Johan worked so hard on, I have my ability to SMS, text message, my students via Zoom phone from my learning management system. All of these things are Zoom's attempt to live where faculty members live and not direct you out somewhere else. Let's pull it all right back to where you've got to engage those learners. All right. I'm going to have to be somewhere else. I've got a project in 2 minutes I'm going to deal with. But do you have any other questions for me?
I just wanted to say, years ago, there was a magazine called Converge.
Yes.
And it was all about how everything was going to converge together. And what you showed us today is the convergence. It's amazing. Hug, hug, hug.
Virtual hug. Virtual hug.
Lance, you've been incredible. What energy, what information. Thank you so much for being with us today. What an astounding bunch of things. And you're so lucky to be able to work in the heart of it. We all envy that. So I hope, what would be great, you got another minute, but tell me that you will come back as part of our AI workshop and talk some more about the instructional design of that. And we'll get in touch with you. Either one of those 2 days. If you're traveling in October, maybe we do it in November. But excuse me for scheduling while I've got you in front of me. It's so much easier.
Absolutely. If I'm available at all, I will absolutely join you. Now, I'm not the AI expert, that is for sure. But I will be more than happy to do an AI section on Zoom specific to that, if that would help.
That would be dynamite. Okay. All right, you all. Thank you for being with us today. Lance, thank you. Johan had to leave, but we wanted to thank him for being here too. Russ, thanks for being with me today and doing all the wonderful things that you do.
Thank you very much. Carla and Lance, don't leave. I've got to talk to you just one brief moment.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Lance.
Yes.
May I have your permission to submit you for a federal government DLA Hall of Fame award? I've got a couple of days to. It's okay with you? You deserve it. You deserve it. It's a incredible crystal glass with a granite base on it and embedded and etched with your name and so forth. So
It
here's
would be
what I
my
need.
honor. It would be my honor,
It's
my
my
friend.
honor to do that work and obtain that for you. I'll have to lobby for it, and I will. So I have some work I have to do. So as soon as I get a yes or no, I'll let you know. But here's what I need in the meantime.
Okay.
As soon as you can, I know you're busy. I just need a very brief paragraph. I need your name, your email address, and your physical address, because eventually this award will come to you in the mail, most likely via FedEx to protect it. So that's what I need. And just a little, use your abstract that you have for Zoom, and I can
Okay.
pluck out everything I need. Just send that to me as soon as you can. I'll do all the work and I'll let you know yes or no within the next week.
Thank you so much, buddy. Yes, I will absolutely do that.
Okay. Sounds good.
I will talk to you soon, my brother. Thank you so
You're the
much for the
best.
opportunity.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.